So we're continuing with the 8 fears, and this verse is just absolutely wonderful. It is so evocative, and it's beautiful language. Driven by the wind of inappropriate attention, billowing forth swirling smoke clouds of misconduct, it has the power to burn down forests of goodness. The fire of anger. Please protect us from this danger. The fire of anger. Well, we all know it, right? We've heard lots of teachings on it. You can start getting a collection of books, and you can be reading for quite some time, and I'm going to talk about a little bit of what's in these books in a minute. But this very extraordinary language of comparing anger to a fire burning down forests of our virtues really works for us here at the Abbey, because we have 240 acres of forest that we've worked very hard to protect and keep healthy. So some of the analogies between anger and fire work, and some of them don't. And quite recently we've had 2 foresters tell us that since the 1910 fire, which took out 3 million plus acres, the forest practice that has evolved since that time has done a really good job of making sure that natural fires don't get going. And this is true in Canada too. I don't know about Europe, but we're really good at putting out fires, usually fairly quickly, and then there's other circumstances like what we see in Australia and Colorado where the fires just go anyway. So in nature, fire is a good thing. It allows forests to rejuvenate. There's the pine tree, which the cones only release their seeds under the intense fire, the heat that comes from that. Anger, though, is never a good thing. Some people might consider it natural and healthy, but we know from our own experience that anger simply destroys relationships and our own peace of mind. So if we were wondering what anger really is, I'm just going to read a few words from Venerable Chodron's very beautiful book, How to Free Your Mind, and also from a teaching she gave recently in Asia. And she says this: anger is compared to fire because of its power to destroy quickly and indiscriminately the positive potential, harmony, and trust among people that has been cultivated with great effort or over a long period of time. So this anger is a mind that is filled with inappropriate attention. So this is what happens. Inappropriate attention is a mental factor. So this is how it starts. Well, it starts even before the inappropriate attention, because we have a mind stream that's been going since beginningless time, and in that mind stream are endless seeds of anger, just waiting for the opportunity to erupt. So I have an experience. I'm not going to talk about this kitchen, but I'm going to talk about another kitchen that I had an experience in when I was very young, in my 20s. Just to show you how these seeds are there, and it's just waiting for the opportunity. And we really have to know what our buttons are. I mean, first of all, we have to own the fact that we're all going to get angry. We're all going to get angry for a very long time. So knowing what will prompt those seeds to erupt is really important. So again, I'm going to stay away from this brand new commercial kitchen, because that might be just too dicey. But in my 20s, my first job when I had graduated from university and I had a music degree was washing dishes in a beautiful resort in the mountains. It was called Emerald Lake Resort. It was absolutely stunning. It was my dream place to be. All my life I wanted to either be at a ski resort or in some place like this. So here I am, out of university, and that is my job for that summer, washing dishes. And I thought, I don't care. I am in a beautiful place. There's all these great people from all over Canada here. We were living in a dormitory that was condemned and was filled with mice. I did not care. And I thought, what's the big deal about washing dishes? No problem. Everybody knows how to wash dishes. And what I didn't know, that every place has a system. And so, of course, I wasn't a Buddhist then. I was an angry ex-Catholic. And there was this fellow who came with Emerald Lake Lodge, and I cannot remember his name, but we called him Mr. So let's say his name is Mr. Brown, and I'm sure his name will come to me. And he was a character. He was extremely eccentric. The kitchen was his domain, and he was going to make sure that all of us goofballs who had just graduated from university and didn't know a thing, he was right about that we were going to do the kitchen in the way that he wanted it run. We did not know this coming into the job. So this lodge at that point in time was quite old and rustic, and the kitchen, let me tell you, there were no checks and balances in there. Hand washing might have happened. We certainly weren't wearing gloves. And we had this very old World War II style dishwashing contraption. That's what it was. It was a contraption. So I was on the shift for my first shift, and of course the people who are there before you, they don't want to tell you anything to save your neck because they want you to have the experience that they had with Mr. Brown. So I'm all ready with my little apron on, and the guests have come, and it was a luncheon, there was a bus crowd, there's lots of dishes, and you had to go like mad because we actually didn't have enough plates and cups for dessert. So we had to fly at it. And no one pointed out that you have to push the dishes in the cart or on this rack thing with a special stick. I didn't know about the special stick. So Mr. Brown knew that I didn't know about the special stick, and he knew that I didn't know anything about the kitchen. And so his inappropriate attention was absolutely focused on what I was going to do next. And this is what we all do. This is the reason for this story. He was focused on the fact that I was going to fail, and he was just waiting for it so he could explode and humiliate me in front of all these other people who kind of knew about the stick. So I start trying to reach for that tray of dishes, sticking my hand into this very hot water, and he sees me doing this and he just screams at me. And the guests in the dining room are just through this flimsy old little door, so they hear Mr. Brown screaming at me to get the stick, get the stick. And so this stick was an old rotten wooden thing that you had to push through on one side of these plastic deals, and if you pushed it too hard, the dishes would go flying through and smash on the end of this contraption, and they would shatter because we were using china dishes. And if you didn't do it hard enough, they'd get stuck in the middle, and so then Mr. Brown would have to come and get a long silver hook, I don't know where the silver hook came from, and pull them through. And so this is my experience for 2 weeks. Everything that I didn't know about the kitchen, no one told me, I was going to find out from Mr. Brown, because he was focused with his inappropriate attention on the fact I was going to fail in every second. Now ask yourself, have you had thinking like that with someone else? You decide you're going to take a beat on someone, it's not possible they're going to succeed. It is absolutely not possible, and either you explode or you implode. And then what happens? Relationships? Down the tube. Does anyone want to be around you? I didn't want to be around Mr. Brown, but the one thing I did want was I didn't want to be fired. So I was smart enough, a little bit, to know that if I screamed back at Mr. Brown, I was down the road with my suitcase. So I just thought, I'm not going to say anything, and I'm going to let him do his thing, because this is how it's going to work. And so that saved my neck, and I stayed at Emerald Lake, and pretty soon I graduated to another job. And they got me out of the kitchen. And then the same thing happened. Eventually I was in the waitress job. This all happened in a very short period of time. That was the deluxe job. But little did I know that there was one cook in there called Rudy, and it was the same thing. There was no way you're going to win with Rudy because you didn't know the rules. So then there was more suffering that happened. It was a beautiful place to work. So we have to recognize that we have these seeds of anger. We have to recognize our buttons. We have to own the fact that we have buttons, and they're going to get pushed in ways that we don't even, sometimes we don't even know. And so it's no good if you're in the middle of being screamed at or just, glared down to say, just a minute, please. There's an antidote in one of these. Just let me find it. That's not going to work. Because all that's going to happen usually is we're just going to retaliate with something. So as Venerable Children constantly reminds us, we have to be prepared. We have to do the practice on the cushion. We have to go through our life and look at, okay, what set me off in the past? What are some of the antidotes I can use with the teachings we received so far? And to be ready. We all grow up in places where we went through a fire drill for our entire school career, right? We all knew that when the fake alarm went, we knew that we'd go outside and stand in that special place outside so that the teacher could count our heads and we'd fight with our neighbor. We all know that. And it's the same thing with our afflictive states, especially anger, because it's not going to go away right away. So one of the antidotes is, of course, to reflect on the disadvantages. And the language in Shantideva's Wave of the Bodhisattva, I'll just read a few of the verses that describe the disadvantages of anger and why we need to cultivate fortitude. And it's just inspiring language, so maybe I'll read 3 verses. Good works gathered in 1,000 ages, such as deeds of generosity or offerings to the blissful ones, a single flash of anger shatters them. No evil is there similar to anger, no austerity to be compared with patience. Steep yourself, therefore, in patience, in all ways, urgently with zeal. Those tormented by the pain of anger will never know tranquility of mind. Strangers they will be to every pleasure. Sleep departs them. They can never rest. So if you want to really get inspired, Chapter 6 in Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life is a wonderful place to sit on the cushion and get ready for the next thing that might happen if you happen to be in a commercial kitchen anytime soon. So I'm going to conclude today's talk. I'm going to just keep it safe here. And all of the verses in these fears end with the phrase, Tara, please protect us from this danger. So when I grew up as a Catholic, I was praying to God and the Blessed Virgin Mary, and I was expecting them to come and save me. Believe me, I said a lot of prayers that summer with Mr. Brown to the Blessed Virgin Mary to please save me, and she did not show up. But maybe what she did do was to inspire me to keep my mouth shut. Anyway, Venerable Children in How to Free Your Mind reminds us of this. How does Tara protect us from danger? The real protection is the Dharma jewel in which we take refuge. The true paths and true cessations of sufferings and their origins in our mind stream. To cultivate and then perfect these paths and cessations, we must first learn about them, then reflect on their meaning, and finally familiarize ourselves with them in meditation and in daily life. To accomplish these 3 steps depend on a qualified spiritual teacher. It is in this way that Tara frees our mind. First, she teaches us the Dharma. Then she stimulates us to investigate its meaning so that we can reach a correct understanding. Finally, she guides us in meditation practice so that we can generate transformative realizations rather than mere fantastic experiences. Enlightened beings cannot take away our defilements, like pulling a thorn from someone's foot, nor can they give us their realizations like pouring water into an empty bowl. Rather, the help they give is by teaching us the path to enlightenment, the Dharma. So with that, if you find yourself anytime soon with anger raging in your mind, yes, call out to Tara, but in your next moment, get yourself to a cushion and start practicing the antidotes for the benefit of all sentient beings.